Hey, it's Jen, the Holistic Health Boss, your functional diagnostic health practitioner and expert. And I have to tell you guys, I thought this day would never come. I finally lost the 10 pounds that I've been working towards for over the past year. You know, for most of my adult life, I've hovered kind of somewhere between 133 to 137 pounds. And in my 20s, I once dwindled down to 126 for a fitness show. But that was a number I'd always dreamt about, but I didn't always, at that point, I didn't actually feel my best or look my best. So over time, I had come to accept that my body was 135, and that was really my sweet spot. But I actually haven't seen 135 on the scale in almost 2 years at this point. Slowly over time, the pounds just started to pack on. At first, I didn't notice it at all. I crept up to about 137, but I just brushed it off. I thought that maybe I'd eaten too many carbs, or maybe I didn't exercise enough that week. And then the next thing I knew, I was on the scale and it read 142. Now at this point, I just thought that the batteries on the scale must have been dying, or that the scale obviously needed to be recalibrated, because after all, I wasn't really one to watch the scale, and my body always stayed in that same range of 133 to 137. Yet my weight continued to climb, and the strangest part was that all of my clothes still basically fit the same. I told myself that as long as my clothes still fit, there was nothing to worry about. This is maybe just a part of, getting older, that I was getting more curvy and filling out in my 30s. But I was shocked when I stood on the scale for the first time and it read 150 and then 152 pounds. WTF was all I could think about. I was doing everything right at the time. I was eating a mostly gluten, dairy, sugar, and soy-free diet. I had cut back on my weekend alcohol intake. I was in bed early almost every single night of the week. I lifted weights 3 to 4 times a week and then ran 3 to 4 times a week also. I did yoga on a weekly basis. I was even meditating once or twice a day at this point in time. And I left my stressful corporate job and I wasn't commuting to work anymore. I was consciously swapping out toxins in my home and in my environment. I literally was doing it all. So I was so stumped about what was happening with my body. Maybe I was just destined to be this way. After all, most of the women in my family were more on the heavyset side, so genetics must have been at play, right? So as the weight slowly climbed, I just started to beat myself up about it more and more. I felt disgusted when I looked in the mirror, because my once trim and toned physique was now fluffy and soft to me. And I didn't want to wear clothes that fit too tight, and I just didn't even feel comfortable in my own skin, let alone anything at all. Now I pushed myself to work out harder. I found the biggest hill by my house and I did rounds of sprints up it once a week. I lifted heavier weights and ran longer distances, and even though I felt tired in the morning or achy, I still forced myself to work through it. Aside from the weight gain, other things also started to change too. I developed acne out of the blue, started having irregular periods and breast tenderness. I was moody and I felt like a foreigner basically inside of my own body, which just didn't feel good at all. So I searched and researched, and I finally figured out I was estrogen dominant. And I went to, various doctors and health practitioners, but no one could really help me figure out what was wrong with me. I even had one doctor, mind you, a women's specialist in one of the most pristine hospitals here in San Diego, tell me that I likely just put on 10 pounds of muscle. Now, obviously, she has little concept about the female body, because it's challenging enough for a bodybuilder type of female to put on 10 pounds, and I certainly wasn't training to that caliber, nor did I look like it, so I have no idea where she got that idea from. But lo and behold, I stumbled upon the answers on my own. I ran my own tests, the same ones that I use with my clients over and over again, to investigate the root cause or contributing factors to this unusual weight gain, and it turned out I was estrogen dominant. And I also had a combination of parasites, bacteria, and yeast into my gut, which my gut had previously been really, really clean. So at first I was so pleased to finally have answers. I had faith the weight would come off now. I thought if I did all the right things to restore balance to my body, I would be back to feeling like myself again in a matter of weeks or maybe even days. I never would have anticipated that it would take a whole year to lose 10 pounds, but like I always say, you have to get healthy to lose weight and not lose weight to get healthy. So many times we have this in reverse or opposite. So this week I really want to share with you more about why it took me so long to finally shed those 10 pounds and what I have basically learned along the way, right? Because there's so many important things that I've gotten out of this experience that I want to share with you to shed some light maybe on your circumstances too. So first of all, the estrogen dominance was basically a sign of something else. Toxic mold and Hashimoto's. Now these things kind of play together, and apart from the toxic mold needing to go, I knew that I couldn't keep living the same way I was living while expecting different results from my body. I had to create space for my body to actually heal. Now the toxic mold had created a very stressful burden on my body. It had toyed with my hormones like my estrogen and my thyroid and negatively impacted my immune system like my gut. But I also had to take responsibility for how I had added fuel to the fire by forcing and pushing my body to work harder, not being as compliant as I could be with eating foods that were best for me, and beating myself up mentally all the time, all of which just added to more stress on my body and created more imbalance. So sure, you can force and push for results, but it doesn't always really work that way. And when you do force or push, you have to consider what you might be doing to your body along the way that will impact your health negatively moving forward, essentially. Now, your body can only heal in a relaxed state. And I had to honestly address the ways in which I had been treating my body, and I had to make some significant changes to allow for more relaxation and the healing to happen. So here's what I did. I drastically cut back on my exercise intensity, and I engaged in more restorative movement. I committed to cutting out all foods 100% that were fueling the inflammation fire inside my body. I worked on forgiving myself and creating more positive conversations in my head. And I made more room for downtime, and I was more mindful about getting good sleep. So most importantly, I had stopped forcing the results to come. I dropped a few pounds at first, but I hit a plateau for a while also, and for a long period of time. So even though the weight was taking its sweet time though to come off, all along the way my body showed me other ways in which it was healing. So I went back to being anxiety and acne free, having perfectly timed menstrual cycles without PMS. I had more mental clarity, and I was able to handle stress without shedding tears or basically, losing my shit over the smallest thing. I even went into remission with my Hashimoto's after just 6 short months of taking medication and changing my lifestyle to reverse the conditions, right? So I thought at this point in time, surely the weight would fall off, but then it didn't really. It just kind of stayed. So I'd lost those couple of pounds and then it stuck. Now I kept my faith that my body would lose weight when my body was ready to, essentially. And I started to see more of this over the summer when my hormones started to fully return back to balance. My estrogen went back down to normal where it was supposed to be. My testosterone went up to normal because it was actually too low. And my cortisol was stable, and my inflammatory markers for mold illness finally started to drop. And this was 8 months after we had removed the mold. So on November 30th, it will be the 1-year anniversary of removing the toxic mold from my home, and a little over a year from learning about my Hashimoto's, and a little bit longer even learning about the estrogen dominance. And really since late September is when I've started to notice this steady weight loss to the point where now I have lost a total of 10 pounds, and I'm so excited. Now, this experience has brought about a lot of perspective for me about what the body needs and the space that it needs to heal. And it's also really driven home my motto about having to, get healthy in order to lose weight and not losing weight to get healthy. It's not that reverse. But here are some other major things that I also learned along the way during this journey. One is that thyroid function can be reduced by as much as 30% when caloric deficits are too high over the course of just a few days. So exercising too much and eating too little is not good. Also, women's hormones are ultra sensitive to food deprivation and toxins have a much bigger impact on our health than we can even begin to imagine, and they are silent disruptors. Also, the conversation that I have with my body on a daily basis is more empowering than any compliment I'll ever receive externally. And also, I learned to be a better listener for what my body needs and what it's trying to tell me. I also learned that I don't have to be tough all the time and push through it. It's actually okay to take a day or even days off at a time to allow the healing to happen. Most importantly, this experience has shown me that our body truly does have all of the answers. When we give it the right food, rest, exercise, reduce stress, support it with the proper supplements, and give it the space that it needs, the body will know how to return back to balance, and it doesn't need anything more than that. Now, I'm in the business of empowering the whole body naturally. That's what the Holistic Health Boss does. So I share this milestone with you in my own health journey, not to boast about the weight that I have lost, but to shed some light on similar frustrations that you might have and on how the body actually really works. It needs that space to heal. So if you've been feeling stuck or frustrated in your health or in your body in some kind of way and can't seem to find the missing pieces, then let me help you. I've been in your shoes, and trust me, there is light at the end of the tunnel, as I am also seeing right now. So if you're interested in learning more about some of the hidden healing opportunities that your body has, maybe things like toxic mold, estrogen dominance, thyroid dysfunction, leaky gut, anything else, brain fog, sleep disturbances, then I'm your gal, and I would like to, invite you to schedule a complimentary ideal health and weight consultation so that we can discuss what's going on with you and figure out what are the best next steps for you to take to get back to balance like I've been doing as well over this past year. So you can click on the link below to go ahead and schedule your complimentary ideal health and weight consultation, or go back to the email where you found this video. And again, I hope you guys can use this information in this story to help you shed some light on your own frustrations or health struggles, and also give you some inspiration that there are answers out there and you can get back to where it is that you want to be, feeling comfortable in your own body again. All right, you guys, that's it. See you next Thursday.